everybody. So we are now in June for Wednesday Wars. You can find this document in the 7A support classroom, or you can find it in Ms. Soper Stevens' classroom. So let's get to it. Okay. What is unusual about Mrs. Baker's mood in the classroom and on the camping trip? So Mrs. Baker, she usually doesn't like camping, usually is very against it. She'll complain about the mosquitoes and everything. But then Holling says like she can't stop smiling, and it's because Lieutenant Baker's coming home soon. So even though she's doing something she doesn't like to do, she's just very excited that her husband's coming home. Okay. 2. Describe the survival rescue story of Lieutenant Baker as reported by Walter Cronkite. How was he able to survive? Who helps him? So, Lieutenant Baker's helicopter was shot down. He hid in the jungle near Khe Sanh trying to keep his wound clean, because what happened when the helicopter got shot down, one of his blades tore up his leg kind of. So he had to keep his wound clean for there's no infection. He was eating chocolate bars, and then a woman came by, found him. 2 of her sons have already passed, so she was like, I'm not going to have someone else pass away, so she didn't want him to die, so she took him in to her home, hid him there for 3 months, and then an American copter was coming by, and he was signaling them, and they came to rescue him. 3. Read the following passage and explain who Holling is referring to. Why do you think that happened? Hint. What happened in May that might have caused these characters to fight and drift apart? In the real world, people fall out of love little by little, not at all at once. They stop looking at each other, they stop talking, and there's a lot of quiet in the house. And late at night, the sounds of sadness creep underneath the bedroom doors and along the dark halls. He's talking about his parents. So what happened in May, to recap, was Holling's dad got really mad at Heather, Holling's sister, and then they started to argue, the parents, and it just ended really, really bad. So nothing really happened. Like they weren't screaming at each other, but his mom kind of just became quiet. Like, I think that was her point, where she just felt helpless, and it didn't help her because she wanted to help her daughter. And so instead she gave Holling money to make sure that they were both eating when he came to pick her up. And she would have loved to be there to pick her up, her daughter, from the train too. So I think she's just mad right now at her husband. 4. How does Holling's sister react to the news of Bobby Kennedy's death? She was very upset. Then Holling, where do Holling and Heather go together? They went to St. Adalbert's, and they were holding hands and lighting 2 candles, and they were crying together. At the beginning of the book, Holling was not close to his sister at all, and nor was his sister. So I just feel as though they're becoming closer, and I think they are both maturing as well, like realizing like they love each other and they would do anything for one another. Here's an optional activity for you guys to do if you would like. Okay, describe the camping trip. What are some highlights and what goes wrong? What do Holling and his classmates do for fun? So they do a lot. One day they were playing capture the flag. They were playing in like the river. They were having fun. But what goes wrong is a lot. Like, Holling's backpack lost all the utensils. Then the mosquitoes started to attack them. And then the raining while you're camping is terrible. And then, now we're here. What news does Mrs. Biggio share with Mai T? What is Mai T's reaction? So actually, at one of the parts where the mosquitoes all start to attack them, Mrs. Biggio shows up with like food and everything that they pretty much need, and she starts making all that with like, she gives them all bug repellent too. And then Mrs. Biggio tells my T that she was talking to the, let me get this. Here's also the book online, side note. And here, okay, so, the Catholic Relief Agency that had sponsored my T when she came from Vietnam. So she wanted my T to know that the house where she was living with the Relief Sisters was very nice, but if she wanted, that is, if my T would like to, maybe if my T could ever imagine that, until my T put her arms around Mrs. Biggio. Mrs. Biggio put her arms around my T. So pretty much they wanted to, Mrs. Biggio was offering for my T to stay with her, which is very nice. And my T was very grateful. That's, they're probably both crying when it says the water. And it says, read the following passage and explain what thoughts keep Holling awake. Who and what is he thinking about, and what was he thinking? Oh, how has his thinking changed since the beginning? All that. Sorry. Hint, in September, what was Holling's mind then? So that night I lay awake thinking about my T and Mrs. Biggio, the Lieutenant Baker coming home to Mrs. Baker, Danny Humfer getting ready for his bat mitzvah, and Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and how in 5 years I'd have to register for the Vietnam draft. So I think what's changing now is Holling's maturing, where he sees life affect so many others, and how he's starting to care for so many others. Because at the beginning of the book, I feel like Holling's world he thought was super small and tiny, and now he realizes like everybody else, and he's starting to mature in that mindset. Read the following passage and explain Holling and his father's different opinions about what it means to become a man. What does this conversation show about Holling has changed? Hint, would Holling ever said this to his father back in September? So, his father says, you think you become a man by chanting a few prayers. Holling, you think you become a man by getting a job as an architect? Holling's father, that's exactly how you become a man. You get a job and you provide for your family, you hang on and you play for keeps. That's how it works. Holling says, I don't think so. It's not just about a job, it's more. It has to do with choosing for yourself. After he said this, his father got in the car and his mom smiled at him. So you could see that his mom was very proud of him, and he was proud of himself. Would Holling has ever said that in September? No. I think it's showing that Holling is starting to realize maybe some of the flaws of his father, and starting to realize like that there's more to life than work in like the quote unquote perfect house. 9. Read the following passage and explain what Mrs. Baker believes about Holling in his future. Hint, how does she seem to feel about this? Oh, how does she seem to feel about him? What does she hope he will do when he grows up? A comedy is about characters who dare to know what they may choose a happy ending after all. I think Don Pedro, character from Much Ado About Nothing, became a man who brought peace and wisdom to his world because he knew about war and folly. I think that he loved greatly because he had seen what lost love is. And I think he came to know too that he was loved greatly. But I thought you didn't want me to tell you about your future. So I think what she's saying to Holling is like, she knows that he's going to be, and he already is, a great person, and he's always going to put his loved ones first, and like he's going, to just spread love and be the best that he can be, And since you've seen what his father was like, she's saying to him, you're not going to be like that. You know, you've seen what it has happened, so that's not going to happen to you. Like pretty much saying like from a learning experience. So it says, what is the final thing that Mrs. Baker says to Holling at the end of the chapter? What does she mean by this? She says, Crenanthium. Crenanthium? Yeah. Crenanthium. Crenanthium. Sorry. It's spelled Chrysanthem. Crenanthium. Yeah. And it means for something really good. So she's just saying like he's done a really good job. This is where in March where they were coming up with the code words. And then describe the ending. Where does Holling go? With whom? And what does he witness? The ending had me teary-eyed. They all went with Mrs. Baker to the airport to help surprise her husband. And he got off the plane, and Mrs. Baker and her husband, they were hugging and they kissed each other, and Holling was like, it was the best moment ever because they were just both so happy. So the book was great. I hope you all loved it. If you have any questions, please let someone know. Oh, and don't forget to do the journal too. But yes. Okay, awesome job, guys, with this book. Bye. Miss you all.